Cullen goes live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, hello, hello. Do I look too low? I look too low. Don't I look low? I do. I don't know what to do about that. Oh, no, that's no better. It's okay. I just feel diminished. Hi, welcome. It's Friday. It's my library book's due. 6/26. That's it. Well, what a difference a week makes. I guess everybody's saying, man, Obama's having a good week. Now, part of that is that trade deal, which I suppose most of us and Democrats are a little leery about. The other, of course, the astonishing Supreme Court ruling, the 6-3 ruling, Roberts. Oh, God, funny stuff. The Wall Street Journal, apoplectic today. Man, is Roberts on their shit list. It's like they feel betrayed. He was supposed to be one of theirs. He was supposed to be looking after their interest. And in large part, he does. I don't know, was it one of you who suggested it, or was it something I read? But this court, on social issues, has tended to be rather liberal on economic issues, which Republicans really care about. This court has, time and time again, it seems to me, pretty much serviced the corporations. So I don't know why the Wall Street Journal is quite so apoplectic, but listen, they actually, the other side, the right, is, they're like, blah, 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 blah. Did somebody get to him? And in fact, the Wall Street Journal editorial page says that this opinion raises the question about Robert's political motives. Or is he being intimidated by somebody? Other people are floating the idea that Obama has something on him and he's being essentially blackmailed. And I said they wouldn't put it past this president. Now, the Wall Street Journal didn't say that, but the Wall Street Journal says, was he intimidated by the campaign to brand any decision President Obama disliked as partisan? If he was, then he has done something worse for the court's reputation by showing it can be easily swayed by political pressure, and even more troubling interpretation could be that the Chief Justice, God, is moving to the left on the bench. You know, because it's happened before. People get on the Supreme Court, and if they move, they never move right. If I'm wrong on that, then come up with a name. If somebody gets put on the bench by a Republican or even a Democratic governor, and they're perceived as conservative, it seems like it happens often that during the course of their long tenure, they drift more and more to the left. In recent history, I don't know, my recent is ancient history to some of you, but in recent history, we've seen it with Justice Souter and Justice Blackmun. I mean, generally the most the guy who was considered to have the most liberal court was the Warren Court, right? Warren was a Republican. He was appointed, I believe, by Dwight Eisenhower. So they're now freaking out that Roberts is going to be... I actually think if somebody has an open mind and is bright, as generally the members of the court are, that over the years of listening to very intelligent people argue these issues, that you can see where somebody might start, tilting a little bit left. But it's delightful to see the fulminating, the sense of betrayal. See, he's only politicizing the court if he's not on their political side. If he were to be marching to their drum, they wouldn't perceive that as politicizing the court. God, people are funny. Okay, on the trade deal, I want to read a email I got a few days ago from one of you. And actually, it's from Jim in Toronto. And he says this: I understand the feelings of those against the pending Asian trade agreement, but I feel that I must try to give some favorable proportion. And it's the way he spelled favorable that I thought, well, this ain't an American, because he spelled it F-A-V-O-U-R. Yeah, and sure enough, when he signed it, it was Toronto, but... In Canada, do they use that English spelling? Yeah, I guess they do. Anyway, so Jim goes on. The facts and concerns that you articulated yesterday are valid. And that was that, these trade agreements just kill American workers. We got a call? Okay, we get a word in edgewise. Okay, hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi.
Hey, you watch this on television with Obama coming out after the shooting and that. And they talk about the nation has to come together and we have to talk about race and all that. But it's all blown smoke up everybody's ass because it's never going to change. You're going to have these people that are racist, whether they're born that way, they were in the environment that way. They're not going to change. You're going to, just like the guns, you're not going to change it because it must be in their DNA. They're not going to change it. And
well, I think...
I guess they got to give lip service to make you feel good.
No.
It's not going to change.
No. I think you're being a little too hopeless. I mean, if everybody took that position, then no one would ever try to do anything to move us forward. Right?
But why are we going backwards, though?
Well, I don't know if you heard... Did you hear the show yesterday with my guest? Who's an he was an African-American male in his 30s. And, he acknowledges that there's been progress made in his lifetime. And God knows there has. In your lifetime, you've seen change. You've seen progress. To think that it isn't going to continue is nuts. Look at the change in how people feel about, homosexuality and whether people. 5 years ago, the idea that gays would be able to marry all over this country, you would have thought somebody was nuts. Change is possible, and it is necessary. And this is one of those openings. For some reason, this one is starting to. There is some change happening. I want to talk about it later in the show. So don't be quite so negative. It's easy, I know. It's my default reaction is always despair. But that just doesn't get us anywhere. And you can see things do change. Things change.
I don't think the shootings will change.
Well, that's now if there's something that you first mentioned racism. I think the gun thing is just flat out nuts. But I think at some point Americans might rise up too on that issue. I don't know.
I hope you're right.
That's a tougher one. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Be of good cheer.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Have hope. Okay. Isn't he the guy who usually fulminates about the trade agreement? No, that's somebody else. They sound alike to me. I have trouble with them. Okay, so here you go. So this is the guy from Toronto who says, the facts and concerns you articulated are valid. Since this is the world in which we live, the Pacific Trade Agreement is the best chance we have of avoiding an eventual conflict with China. As Hillary Clinton once said, and I'm paraphrasing, he says, since China is our banker, we can't afford to piss them off. We got a call. Hello?
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike from D.C.
Mike.
Supreme Court announced marriage equality nationwide.
They did!
Uh-huh.
Woo! Unbelievable.
I know. I never in a million years thought it would happen.
Do you believe it? Good God Almighty.
In my lifetime, that's what's so crazy. I mean, in 1980s when they were burying us left and right and, people wouldn't even physically touch our presence.
Yes.
And we would go to hospitals and nurses would refuse to wait on us.
Right.
Now that as a collective group we have the right to say, oh, yes, you will, and he's my partner and he can come in. And
I got goosebumps. I've got goosebumps. Oh, thank you. What a bearer of extraordinary tidings you are.
And Rachel Maddow, that's what made me look this morning. I've been looking all morning because Rachel Maddow said that rumor on the street was they were going to announce it today.
Okay. Well, I'll wait to see. Do you know what the vote was? Was it 5-4? I'm seeing what I can. Yes, it's 5. It's 5.
That
it's 5-4.
legal for all Americans, no matter their gender or sexual orientation, to marry the people they love. Decision is historical. Blah blah blah. That's all that's out. It says. Kind of wait for more.
Yeah, I'm looking on mine.
I'm on Huffington Post.
Okay, well, I'm just on CNN, but okay, it's 5-4, but I assume that's Kennedy in the.
Yeah, it doesn't say who's the 5 are.
Okay, I'm looking though. Okay, whatever. Oh, how God! Who would? I've been a wreck. I have been a wreck for half the summer. Oh no, the summer's just starting.
This is not the answer I thought.
Unfriggin' believe. Oh,
so
my.
Now the Christian right gets to freak out about two things. And it's probably why they released the healthcare one yesterday. And then this is going to stop the discussion about
healthcare as they freak out about this.
And now they're going to freak out about, oh, my God, gay wedding cakes. And I have to sell wedding dresses to men, all that BS.
Well, I saw somebody say, so if I'm a baker, this was yesterday, can I refuse to bake a cake for somebody who wants the Confederate flag on it?
That's a great question.
You chew on that for a while.
I could refuse to some people, but not to others.
Oh, Mike. Well, I'm happy, and I'm happy for you and yours, and every gay human being in the universe and for all of us. This is progress. They say this would never happen? My God!
And my mother said years ago, when I think Sandra Day O'Connor got confirmed, and I was all freaking out, or whoever it was, and she was like, when they're on the court, they change, they don't have to worry about public opinion, and they meet people they wouldn't have otherwise met in their small world. They often become more liberal, and wasn't she right?
Yeah. Well, I'm just thrilled. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, this Roberts Court is looking like... Woo! Are they dancing in the streets out there?
I sure hope they are.
I bet they are! Oh my God! Yes! Okay, sorry. I know I'm supposed to do a talk show. How freaking fantastic. Okay, change is possible. Extraordinary change is possible, and in this regard, mind-blowingly quick. Mind-blowing. In our lifetimes, gays were closeted, fearful of, and let me just say to you, and especially to you, Daryl friggin' Metcalf, we live in a state in which gay people are still not protected from job discrimination, employment discrimination, housing discrimination. And I don't think this does anything about that. So, as we said earlier, you're free to marry. But be careful about putting out the invitation so that, like if you got a homophobic boss, that boss can still, can you? How can any legislature now, how can they not? Well, of course, this is America, they can. So, okay. Wow. My head's sort of spinning. Okay, so here's what I want to share with you in this mind-blowing few days, what we have witnessed. We have witnessed our worst side. We have witnessed the toll that can be exacted because of the racism in our culture. And we have witnessed yet again the horror that the ready availability of guns mixed with that hate, what that can yield. And yet we have seen that extraordinary forgiveness voiced by the victims' loved ones, which I really think is what caused this to be different than all these other massacres we have lived through. Somehow that extraordinary grace, to me, immeasurable faith, true Christian belief of love and forgiveness, when that evidenced itself in that hearing, I really think it had a huge impact on people's hearts. And I think that more than anything is what drove, well, political considerations obviously did too on the part of the Republicans. But people were touched. And I want to say this, David Brooks puts it just nails it. What actually Damon Young, I keep wanting to call him Devin, I finally did. Damon Young and I were talking yesterday, and he voiced the more hopeful idea that obviously change happens. Change is painful. People are fearful of it, and we're seeing the fact that the pushback, the fear is so evident now. The shooting is evidence of that fear. That actually means, believe it or not, that the progress is coming. The pain, the fear is a clear indication. It's like a symptom that these people fear the change that is coming. So we were talking about, big deal, so we take down the friggin' stars and bars. That's a symbol. That's a rag. It's a red rag. That's not changing, giving black children true equal education. That's not this, that's not that. That's what I was saying. And here's what David Brooks says, and this is it. This is true, and I came around to it yesterday too. Culture is transmitted through generations by the things we honor or don't honor, by the symbols and names we celebrate and don't celebrate. If we want to reduce racism, never going to eradicate it. If we want to reduce racism and if we want to reduce it and make it something that no one wants to be associated with, if we want to do that, then we have to devalue the symbols that signify its acceptance. And that's the flag, in part. Big, huge. So to see this flag coming down, to see retailers saying, to see, good God, Strom Thurmond's grandson, who's like some legislator in wherever, some godforsaken Confederate state, actually equated, people were brutalized under this flag. Strom Thurmond's grandson. To see this conservative Republican governor of another godforsaken Confederate state finally seeing the light and saying it's equivalent to the swastika. It is a symbol of hate. Just ask all the skinheads and white supremacists all over the world that have taken it to their bosom. But there's a slippery slope here. And my son and I were having this discussion. All right. Have you ever been to the U.S. Capitol? I was a long time ago. But do you know, in our U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C., there's a place called Statuary Hall. And in Statuary Hall in the U.S. Capitol, there are statues of Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, is standing in the U.S. Capitol. What? Okay, fine. We're going to take the flag down? You damn well betcha. All these statues honoring these traitors to our country need to come down too. And you think that's just coming from a liberal Democrat? Mitch McConnell. God. Mitch McConnell. Powerful man. Republican, conservative, Southerner, majority leader. He said that he wants the Jefferson Davis statue in the state capitol in Kentucky, his state. He wants it out the door. Well, hell, if Mitch McConnell wants it out the door in Kentucky, then man alive, it needs to be out the door in Washington, D.C. And, believe me, people are talking about it now. Nancy Pelosi, when she had Mitch McConnell's position, she managed to quietly take the statue of Robert E. Lee that was in Statuary Hall and put it in a remote area of the Capitol called the Crypt, essentially burying him. She replaced Robert E. Lee with a statue of Rosa Parks. Each state is allowed 2 statues, which will stand somewhere in the Capitol building. I don't know what Pennsylvania's are, but there are a lot of Confederate heroes. There are a lot of segregationists honored in our U.S. Capitol, and those statues need to go down. Caller, hello.
Lynn,
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about. I just happened to read that the
Yeah.
dean of the National Cathedral
Yeah.
said that 2 stained glass windows need to come down because they have Confederate flags in them.
In the National Cathedral, there's stained glass
Washington
windows.
National Cathedral. And there's a picture of them. Again, I was reading the Huffington Post.
Isn't that something?
Just thought I'd throw that
Well,
out.
thank you. Thank you. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye. Wow. So, but then my son brought up this. He said, okay, so what about the Washington Monument? George Washington was a slave owner. Well, what about, we got slave owners on our money, we have the Jefferson Memorial, at what point, and that's a good question, at what point do we pull together David Brooks saying quite clearly that you transmit culture through symbols, and the symbols that are important to you and the symbols that to you are noxious in some ways, those are, that's how kids learn. But my son also said, but ultimately said, so when I'm in school and Columbus Day came around, he said, I was taught that that was somebody we honored in our country. He said, I don't. I said, well, right, because everybody is allowed individual choice. But the country has, obviously, here's what David Brooks says on this. My own view is that we should preserve most Confederate memorials out of respect for the common men, the common soldiers. We should keep Lee's name on institutions that reflect his post-war service, like Washington and Lee University, where he was president. But we should remove Robert E. Lee's name from most schools, roads, other institutions where the name could be seen as acceptance of what he did and what he stood for during the war. This is not about rewriting history, he says. It's about shaping our culture going forward. So we have to own our history. But this is the first time in my lifetime that I have seen such a huge outcry to call out the South, to call out those Confederate states that still are in so many ways fighting that same war, that still take pride in that war. We need to stop letting them get away with that. I think that's a moment we're at. I do. But you see, all of these things are complicated, aren't they? Okay, let me see what you guys have been sending me. What a day. What a day. NP sends me this from the concluding paragraph of the majority opinion. Quote, "No union is more profound than marriage, for it embodies the highest ideals of love, fidelity, devotion, sacrifice, and family. The challengers ask for equal dignity in the eyes of the law. The Constitution grants them that right." Chief Justice Roberts wrote the principal dissent, which is 31 pages long. Toward the end of it, he says, quote, "If you are among the many Americans of whatever sexual orientation who favor expanding same-sex marriage, by all means celebrate today's decision. Celebrate the achievement of a desired goal. Celebrate the opportunity for a new expression of commitment to a partner. Celebrate the availability of new benefits. But do not celebrate the Constitution. It had nothing to do with it." Whoa! Whoa! Caller. Hello, caller.
Hi.
Hi.
The governor of South Carolina says, after the tragedy and, at the church, that we should have a conversation, start a conversation.
Well, I think we have, haven't we?
Yes, but do you think there's any conversation that would convince a person like Dylan Ruth that he was wrong in what he thought?
No. I mean, a conversation, you're never going to change everybody's minds, but you can change what is acceptable behavior, even acceptable feeling in many ways. But you can't, people are individuals with free will and the ability to think their own thoughts. But you can educate, and generation after generation you can push back, make things better, move forward. Can you imagine that you would live to see a day when the Supreme Court of the United States said that gay couples in this country are free to marry? Do you think ever that you would see such a thing?
No.
Change happens. And a whole bunch of Americans totally disagree with this still. They haven't changed in their heads, but the law has changed.
And I think the law can make, the Civil Rights Act of 1965, after that was passed, many people changed the way they felt about blacks.
Well, they tried and some did. I mean, it takes doing. It takes time. As the president said the other day, we're dealing with 300 years of doing things the wrong way, of slavery, of segregation, of Jim Crow, of all this stuff. We now clearly are trying to correct these things, and we've been trying for the last 50, 60 years, 60-some years, really trying. And there's been real pushback from a lot of people, mostly that old Confederacy. But
we've made progress, too.
We sure as heck have. We can feel, thank you. We can feel good about our country today.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Huh? Celine can't stop crying. She's just over there weeping. Oh, yeah. Good tears, good tears. Some guys don't get that girls cry when they're happy. Any emotion. They cry when they're angry. They cry when they're sad. They cry when they're happy. Okay? I used to be a total weeper. I think we were talking about this the other day, Celine and I, and I don't know what happened. I really think it's when I got menopausal that it stopped. So there's a lot of hormonal crap going on there, too. I mean, the waterworks sort of start shutting off after a while, but, yeah, oh, man, was I a crier. Oy, yay. So, Henry writes this: the Confederate flag must come down, but it should not be forgotten. The flag must not disappear completely. Rather, it must now become a symbol of a great wrong. Until now, it has been a symbol of pride. Yeah, for many. My God, it's on stained glass windows in the National Cathedral. And now it must become a symbol of disgust. But it should never completely go away. Regarding the statue of Jefferson Davis in the U.S. Capitol, I don't know why it was placed there in the first place, but I would leave it there. Jefferson Davis is not the symbol of hatred that the Confederate flag had become. He was a major traitor. He was a traitor to the United States of America, as was Robert E. Lee. And you know what? Brooks, it's just showing how things are complex. Brooks writes of Robert E. Lee that he was a man of impeccable honesty, integrity, and kindness. No one ever had a bad word to say about him. His generosity of spirit, every conversation of his it was said to be wonderful. Every letter he wrote was wonderful. He was a great family man. He was relaxed and affectionate. He was devout. He was a gifted painter, a lover of animals, a charming conversationalist. In theory, he opposed slavery. He once called it a moral and political evil. He opposed the South seceding. He called it silly. But when it came time for him to make a choice, he was a general, a United States general. He went to the wrong side. It was a treasonous act. He betrayed his oath to serve the United States of America. And not all generals who lived in Virginia did that. Plenty of generals who were Virginians and who were Southerners stayed with the Union. Those were individual choices. He had slaves, and yet he thought it was an evil. I mean, people are complicated. So you can honor, I don't know. I think everything having to do with the Confederacy must be remembered, yes, not forgotten, must be taught in the proper way. And these symbols, like that flag and these statues, they do have to stop holding places of honor anywhere in our country. I mean, when somebody overthrows a government, what's the first thing they do? They tear down the statues. What was the great symbolic thing? Saddam Hussein's statue going down. Statues have power. What a day. What a week. So, Let's see what else we got. Anybody making, I'm sure you're all... You're not listening to me, are you? You've turned on some kind of like MSNBC or CB or some kind. You have, haven't you? Well, that's quite all right. You desert me if you want. I would desert me too. Let's see what my friend Mackenzie Carpenter writes. 5-4 decision, U.S. Supreme Court, the law of the land, and a decision released this morning saying the 14th Amendment requires a state to license a marriage between two people of the same sex. Despite what the Chief Justice says. It had nothing to do with the Constitution. It has everything to do with the Constitution. Because the 14th Amendment is about equal... I have it here somewhere. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny for any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. Darryl Metcalf, did you hear that? All right, so the court wrote in the majority opinion, which is written by Justice Kennedy, who would be the swing guy. He's the one, and he should have written it. It is now clear that the challenged laws burden the liberty of same-sex couples, and it must be further acknowledged that they abridge central precepts of equality, especially against a long history of disapproval of their relationships. This denial to same-sex couples of the right to marry works a grave and continuing harm. The imposition of this disability on gays and lesbians serves to disrespect and subordinate them. And the Equal Protection Clause, like the Due Process Clause, prohibits this unjustified infringement of the fundamental right to marry. All the other justices in the dissent wrote their own dissents, so I mean, those are things you, if you can stand it, you might want to read. Let me see. Here is more from his opinion, Justice Kennedy. No union... Oh, I already wrote this too. It is now clear that the challenged laws burden the liberty of same-sex couples. And it must be further acknowledged that they abridge central pieces, especially against a long... I already read that. How's that in the same article again? President Obama tweeted, "Today is a big step in our march toward equality. Gay and lesbian couples now have the right to marry, just like anyone else." Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf said this historic ruling is a victory for LGBTQ Pennsylvanians and allies. Gay marriage is now simply marriage. And the pursuit of happiness will no longer be denied same-sex couples. So finally, when you say the Pledge of Allegiance, if you ever do, when you come to the part with liberty and justice for all, that's more true now than it has been. I always sort of, I winked when I said it because we know it's not true. It's not true for minorities of many stripes, be it racial or ethnic or gender related. So I'm proud. I'm proud of America today. I'm proud to see that our government, which I've always been saying of late, is broken and doesn't work, that it's still, even though it's hamstrung, it is still capable of moving things forward. So, this is huge. This is huge. Now, I heard a troubling thing saying that, the Republicans just must be reeling. They must just be, that's the first time Celine smiled, must be reeling. But somebody pointed out that when a party feels that everything is turning against them, this is not always a moment that weakens them. It is, in fact, often a moment where they come together, coalesce, and start really pushing again. And the Republicans are not ones to back away. So I think things are going to... That pushback that we have always had to deal with, that pushback is going to get maybe a little nastier. Caller, hi.
Hi, Lynn, this is David D'Angelo, Two Political Junkies.
Hi, David, how are you?
How are you? What's going on in the news? I haven't been watching. What's happening?
Ain't it a good week?
Yeah, I'm thinking, I was just reading the decision and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking Rick Santorum has to be just, his head is exploding right now. and let's see, Mike Huckabee and Daryl Metcalf, as you said, and they're already starting to go crazy over at the WorldNet Daily. There's already a column up there quoting Phyllis Schlafly saying that this is going to bring about the persecution of Christians.
You know what? For people, some of these Christians are going to start, these are the end times. This is sure acknowledgement. This is definite proof now that we're in the end times.
Oh, yeah. I'm wondering, what part of Revelations is, 5-4? No, is it a? Yeah, it was a 5-4 decision.
Yeah, it was a 5-4. It was a 5-4. So
what part of Revelations mentions the 14th Amendment? But
But no,
I'm sure you can interpret the Book of Revelations in many, many, many ways, and probably that way is one of them.
Something that I think we should be ready for is that there was this report out the other day about how since 9/11, more Americans have been killed in terrorist attacks by right-wing domestic terrorists than by anybody, saying I support, ISIS or anything like that. And I think that crowd, the lunatic fringe, really lunatic fringe right-wingers and their guns, I'm a little afraid that we'll see more of domestic terror now.
I hope not,
because they'll feel that.
But that has always been the case.
Yeah.
The guy who bombed the
Timothy
Atlanta
McVeigh.
Olympic Park.
Oh, okay, yeah, Rudolph.
Yeah, certainly a right-wing nut job. The guy who shot Dr. Tiller. That's always. Yeah, I'm hoping it isn't. I'm hoping that there's enough rational. I'm laughing as I'm saying this. I hope there's enough rational thought out there. But rational thought on the fringe of the right wing is very rare.
Yeah.
Just to put it nicely, but it'll be fun to watch the with a dozen or so, however many Republicans are.
Oh, I think there's more than
4 dozen. It's the size of the. It'll fit in Heinz Field. I think that's how many Republicans are running.
It's pretty much every Republican governor. Some of the senators. Yeah, it's everybody. It's pretty much everybody. They're all there.
Donald Trump will,
and Donald Trump.
Say something or other stupid because it's a Friday,
I am just, but I do think that when some of these people are going to feel sort of cornered now, and there's nothing more dangerous than a cornered crazy person.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
But to his benefit, I think as Dimitri Vassaleros just blogged, has this ruined your marriage yet? It's
good for him.
Satire.
Yeah, good for him.
I'm married, and this case it doesn't change my marriage at all.
No. That's absurd.
Yeah, it's just absurd. It's always been an absurd argument of, it threatens the institution of marriage. Well, I don't understand the statement, but I'm sure. Being an atheist, I'm going straight to hell, and I'll get my just desserts and stuff.
So this country, it's very odd. We're getting, obviously, very quickly more socially liberal. But I think the conservatives still are in total control in terms of financial stuff, because otherwise, why do they own the Congress? They do that based on money issues, on taxes and stuff.
Well, that might also be kind of a demographic thing, because it takes time to generate that amount of money. It's very rare for someone who's 20 to be a billionaire. So it takes time. So if there's someone who's a billionaire, they're probably of an older demographic, which would probably skew a little more conservative. So you're going to find more conservatives among the very wealthy, because that's who are really old and have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So given 2 or 3 generations, and the place will look completely different. It'll also be mostly underwater, thanks to our friends at the Discovery Institute. No, Heartland denying of climate change. But you and I will be dead, and so it won't matter.
Oh God. Oh, David, it's a great day.
I'm being very snarky.
I know you are. I know you are. And let us remember this date, June 26th. This is going to be one of those huge rulings that people will remember forever.
Yes.
Thank you.
And sadly, I'd seen at least one news report of a pastor, a conservative pastor, who pledged to set himself on fire. I'm not kidding. This is not a joke. Set himself on fire if the ruling came down in favor of marriage equality. Yeah. I'm hoping the guy, as he's about to light the match, says, "Oh, this is a really stupid idea," and takes a shower and washes off the gasoline.
You think he'll do it? You think he'll do it?
I would hate to see that.
Do you think he'll do it? He might want to
something stupid like that.
He might want to become a martyr. Oh, dear God in heaven. Yeah, some people, a lot of heads exploding.
Still there?
A lot. Yeah, I am. You don't hear me? He doesn't hear me. Okay. A lot of heads are exploding. Did you lose? David, I can hear you, but, well, I don't hear you because you're on. You might as well just, yeah. So Dorothea writes this, Lynn, if we need a good reminder of the importance of the next presidential election, the actions of the Supreme Court this week would suffice. That's right. That's right. Caller, is that David again?
No, I'm not David.
No, you're not David. That'd be Clarence.
I'm not Peter or Paul or Matthew either.
What do you think? Isn't this amazing?
Yeah, it is amazing. I'm actually amazed. But I've been saying for years, when the whole issue came up, I'm like, that's why Republicans wanted to have a constitutional amendment. You have to amend the Constitution to stop this. It's unconstitutional. It's obvious.
Right.
So that was obvious.
Right.
What I wanted to talk about was, why Republicans win. That's prompted me.
So why do they win?
They win because they get people to the polls. That's all. The majority of Americans agree with the Democrats, or the Democrats, but they get people to the polls, and they used things like gay marriage and equal rights and all that kind of stuff to get people angry and to the polls. That's their trick. Yeah, that and this is another thing that they can use to get people in to the polls, so that they can cater to the wealthy. That they get people who work against their own interests to the polls by using social issues, and then they do policies that go against them.
Well, Democrats only get people to the polls in national elections, when presidential elections.
Exactly. You see how down it was from 2008 to 2010.
Yeah, it's just outrageous. I don't know what we can do.
This. You know how when the shooting happened in Charleston, the NRA and people say, during a crisis, people you shouldn't talk about, guns and this, that, and the other thing. But during good times, this is when Democrats just start pointing out the effectiveness of government. And if you go out to vote, you know what I mean? These kind of things can continue.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Try using good times. If you want things like this to continue, you have to vote in every single election.
If you want the Affordable Care Act, if you don't want 6 million Americans all of a sudden being thrown off of their insurance, if you want equality for gays, if you want these things, you damn well better vote.
Here's where you messed up. I agree with everything you said.
What'd I say?
You said if you want, people not to have, you made it too big. if you don't want to lose your health care, if you want equality,
yeah, then you got to vote. Okay, right, okay.
You got to make it right to them, because it's that old psychological thing. Like if people see a picture of a starving child, they'll send money at a certain rate. If they see a bunch of starving children, they think there's nothing they can do.
That's true. You're right. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The power of one.
The power of one. There you go.
Right.
Yeah, but hey.
Hey, well.
Gay marriage.
Hey.
I'm like you though. You know what I mean? When these kind of things happen, the Confederate flag being pulled off of out of the App Store. Come on, out of Apple's App Store. And it got to that point.
There's a lot of things to raise a glass to today.
Exactly.
Oh man!
And use that glass to the reflection of that glass to watch your back.
These are good times. Good. Who would thought? Oh God, Clarence, good. I'm just there's so many happy people right now, and the people whose heads are exploding, I'm happy their heads are exploding.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back upstairs to my computer.
You gotta, check out Fox News right now. You want to see some exploding heads? That's where you'll see them.
All I gotta do is go to my Facebook page. I got plenty of concerns.
Oh, okay. Have fun.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Wow. Thomas writes from Penn Hills, this has been a great week for our nation and the Supreme Court. Not so great for Justice Scalia. Maybe one day he'll join the rest of us. No, he revels in being a clever curmudgeon and on his. I mean, this dissent he wrote on the Affordable Care Act to me, is not worthy of a justice of the Supreme Court. He called the reasoning interpretive jiggery-pokery. What the hell is that? I mean, I never heard that term. Jiggery-pokery? I mean, I get the idea. He doesn't like it. And his, if you looked at what he wrote on I can't imagine what he wrote on this. Actually, I could look it up right now. But on yesterday's decision, it was just sarcastic. Sorry. Wow. What a week. And it started with such horror. I wonder if that jerk, the murderer, I wonder if he's aware of what he's wrought. Besides the pain and carnage, what he's wrought. It all blew up in his face. He's done more harm to the folks he thought he was helping than any of us could have ever hoped to do ourselves. I'm just wow. I don't know what to say. I want to go get drunk. Champagne? Yeah, I do. I want to celebrate. I do! Okay, well, let's see. I mean, I just don't feel like anything else I want to talk about is worthy of talking. So, let's see. There's one, if you allow me, there's a local story that it was in the paper that I have such a confusion about. Can I just run it by you? I don't know that any of you are going to be able to help me. This has to do with that open streets thing where they open the streets, and now they're going to do it again, I think on Sunday. This Sunday they're doing it again, and then they're doing it again in July. And this involves the closing of more than 25 city intersections to vehicles, unless you're pedaling on something or, walking. And this is from, it's called Open Streets Pittsburgh, and it's being run by that organization Bike Pittsburgh. And some of the merchants in the Strip District have said it just destroyed their business. Destroyed their business. There's a butcher there who said he sold about $10,000 less than he usually does when that happened last time. And so these business owners are appealing to the city saying, hey, can we rethink this a little bit? Because why should we? I mean, you're killing us here. Some business owners had more business and some got killed. So here's the quote, though, it's not a quote, it's a statement that just blows me away. It says, Tim McNulty, spokesman for Mayor Bill Peduto, said, the mayor supports the event, but the city was not involved in planning it or determining the routes. What? Well, if you close down 25 city intersections, how is the city not at the table? Will you please help me? Help me there. They just turned the city over to Bike Pittsburgh and said, do with us what you will? What is it? I mean, okay. So, I mean, we got to get an answer to that. That is insane. That can't be true. The city is not involved. It is on the city's public streets. Jeez. Okay. Pittsburgh girl says, Lynn, my wife and I will be married 3 years as of Tuesday. This is from Beth. Today's announcement is the best anniversary present. I am working in one of those states that did not recognize legal gay marriage from other states. We would talk if she should bring our power of attorney papers when she would come and visit me, just in case one of us were hospitalized, etc. As of today, papers no more. Looks like our Maryland marriage license will do. What a great day. Happy anniversary, Beth. Wow. Amazing. I'm so glad I could share this day with you. Thank you. Now I'm going to sit in the corner with Celine and cry. Okay? Have a wonderful weekend. Wonderful weekend. And we'll talk again on Monday. Mwah.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.